He's kindly agreed for us to call him in LA, which I think is probably at some dreadful early hour of the morning. Doug, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, and it is a little bit early, and I haven't had my coffee yet.
Oh, my goodness me. I should have delayed so that you could at least make a cup of coffee. Many thanks for joining us.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Thank you so much for having me.
It's our pleasure. Now then, this masterclass in Cyprus, which everybody's getting really excited about here, is part of a huge world tour of masterclasses, isn't it? I'm fascinated that since very early on in your career, you have taken time out to encourage other guitar players and youngsters in the art.
Well, it really means a lot to me, and I love it. I love working with people, and especially, kids that everybody enjoys music, and I just really want to be encouraging to kids that want to maybe play music and try and inspire them and show them that you don't have to be born a virtuoso musician. You can have fun with it, and you'll grow into that. And it's without music, I mean, I wouldn't be here right now. So I'm happy to be doing it.
You got into it through your family, didn't you? Your sisters, I think. But did you not first head towards a more classical music before you took up into the rock business?
I did. This is what happened. My sister had a classical guitar with the gut strings, plastic strings, and that's a very stringent kind of music, as we know. But it's really a beautiful sound. And one summer, my friends were all my friends that I used to skateboard with and play football with. They were all gone on family vacations, and I had nothing to do. And there was the guitar, so I picked it up, and I fell in love immediately. And here I am, all these years down the road, and I still love it. Every day I play guitar. And yeah, it was that sister's guitar that got me going, and then my older sister had a boyfriend that had a Gibson Les Paul, and he sold it to me, and that was my first real electric guitar.
Wow, good way to start. Now then, about the writing, you still do, I think, use acoustic guitar sometimes when you're writing, don't you, before you then sort of get together with the guys and fill it out, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, really what it comes down to, and I learned this really from David, because I didn't used to write on acoustic as much. I'd only write on acoustic when I wanted to write a soft song or a ballad or something. But actually, it's a great way to find, without any bells and whistles, as it were, to find a nice chord progression and a nice melody, and you can transform it into a heavy song later. But that's one of the things I'll be covering a little bit in the master classes. I love to play acoustic. I love alternate tunings, and it opens up lots of inspiration for writing songs. That's how that song Forevermore from the last record was written.
Well, that's what we're going to hear when we finish speaking. But I think that one of the things that particularly sort of enthralls you is the different sounds that different guitars make, and how you can extract even more possibly from an instrument. Where did that come from?
I think that comes from listening to guys like Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Page and some of the innovators of the kind of rock music that I really love and that I play, and Jeff Beck too. They would just pull out, Jimi Hendrix would pull out these sounds out of his Stratocaster that were just not from this earth, and the same thing with Jimmy Page, and it goes on and on. I mean, every person has a different feel. And I believe that everybody's personality comes out in their playing, and that's what makes everybody's playing unique. And you just have to find a way to nurture that so that your style comes out.
And you do have your very own style. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But you are quoted as saying that you like going after more tribal, syncopated rhythms. Now, we don't really associate syncopation with heavy rock, do we?
Well, that's what you just heard. The song "Good to Be Bad" is exactly that. It's a little bit of a different rhythm. That's based off of bom 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 got, bom 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 got, like that kind of thing. And then you've got these 16th notes in between that make up. It sounds like a Whitesnake song, obviously with David singing on it, but it's also a groovy kind of a song that maybe would refer back to a kind of a tribal beat in a way.
You've played with many different bands over the years. How would you say that your music and your contribution to the various bands has changed and possibly matured since you started?
Well, I'm still learning, and that's one of the things I love about teaching too, is that it enables me to go back to the fundamental things that have helped me become a good player, and so. But to answer your question, I think that just as time has gone on, I've matured in my songwriting and my playing to where it's not so much about trying to, maybe for an example, fit too many guitar parts or shred too many fast guitar leads. It's more about melody now for me, and I think melodies now start coming into my head, and I'll talk to David about them and say, hey, I got this melody, it's really cool, and I'll show him what I got, and that can a lot of times turn into a song, and I think maturing has helped me bring more to the table with regard to Whitesnake.
How did you and David meet? Because I would also imagine that to have the sort of relationship that you've now had for, well, pretty many years, and to get on still as musicians in a band. We've seen so many bands where people go their different ways and so on and so forth. What is it that gels you and David together when you're creating songs?
It's we have a really similar background as far as our influences, and I'll say this: David's influences are the same influences that guys like Jimmy Page and Jimi Hendrix had. They're the original bluesmen, and David's a serious blues aficionado, and I love blues and I love Jimmy Page, and David kind of has led me to where guys like Jimmy Page, Jimi Hendrix, Jeff Beck, where they got theirs from, and which is the same place he got his from, these blues artists. And so we have a mutual admiration for that kind of thing, and that's a nice foundation for us. But we're also, personality-wise, David's obviously, he's a very intense guy. He's a very strong and, he's a big, larger-than-life individual, and I'm a very shy person, and so we kind of can hang with each other. I'm happy not to talk that much, and he's happy to talk, and it works out good. And besides that, our families are friends, our wives are friends, and it's just when we sit down to write music, it's like effortless. So it's just gone on and on and on. But how we met, I was working with Ronnie James Dio, and David was going to reform Whitesnake in 2003 for I guess it was a 30th anniversary tour, and it was just 2 month tour, and now 2 months has now turned into coming up on 10 years.
But it must be great as well that your families, as you say, are close, and that must make life very much easier. I did read, I think probably on your website, that in your music collection you've got the likes of Miles Davis and Count Basie and, Bob Dylan. I think anybody growing up in your generation probably has some of his stuff, but even the Beach Boys. So, I mean, you've got a pretty wide musical taste, it seems.
Well, I love all that stuff for different reasons, but I think the Beach Boys is funny because that was my very first concert when I was a kid, and then I went away from them. I mean, it was kind of like, for me at the time, I was getting into, like I say, Zeppelin and Sabbath and Deep Purple, and Beach Boys wasn't part of that equation. But as I got older, I started to realize the beauty of the vocal harmonies that they do, and that. You started hearing stories about how Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys was their answer to the Beatles' Yellow Submarine record. So it started to get interesting again, and listening to them harmonize those vocals is pretty mind-blowing. But I do love a lot of different stuff. I love classical. I love jazz. And the only thing that I don't really have a whole lot of is straight-up country. I don't know. It's not as much. I like Southern rock a lot, but not straight-up country. I haven't really gotten into it yet that much.
Okay, well, that may come, who knows, as you get older. But let's get back, if we may, to your reason for visiting Cyprus, and I'm guessing it'll be your first visit to the island.
No, actually, it's my second, and I'm so excited to come back. It's a beautiful place, and the people, you say the Cypri? Is that how you say it?
Cypriots, or in Greek they say Kypri, yes.
Cypriots, the Cyprus people are extremely cool, and the crowd at the Whitesnake show was just off the charts. It was crazy. And I made friends with our promoter, and I said, I'd love to come back sometime, and so that's what we're doing. I'm coming back. I want to teach. And Whitesnake's off this year. We're not touring. We're working on various projects at home. That
must be a bit of a relief sometimes, is it, Doug, to not be on the... Because you did a huge tour last year, didn't you? I mean, you were out for most of the year.
That's right, and we really wanted to come to Cyprus, too. It was something that we had talked about and tried to make happen, and it just didn't happen. And so I thought, damn it, that's it. I'm coming on my own.
Well, everybody's looking forward to it, I tell you. I don't know how many people they can pack into Stoa for the 25th of February. What exactly, then, are you going to be doing there? Because it does say on the blurb that I've been sent that it's not just for people who are musicians. It's just for music lovers. So what form do your master classes take?
Well, it's a very casual, very open type of evening, and I encourage people to, I'll warm it up a little bit with I'll play and I'll talk, but eventually I really enjoy getting questions from people about, they can ask me anything under the sun about what it's like with Whitesnake, how to write a song, how do you play that part, can you show me this, can you show me that, and it just becomes a very informal, very comfortable evening, and then I'll play more music and sometimes I get people up to jam with me, but you're right. It's really for people who love music and want to come out and have a good laugh and hear me play some different styles that they haven't heard me do before.
Well, I'm sure they'll be queuing up outside the doors. Yeah, only one night. That's the terrible thing.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing about these types of these kind of masterclass tours is it's really kind of I'm in and out of each city, and there's not a lot of time, and that's a shame because last time I was in Cyprus, I had about 2 or 3. I think I had 3 days to kind of hang around and get the vibe a little bit, and it was just lovely there. It was awesome.
Many thanks for letting us disturb your slumbers very early I suppose it's early Thursday morning for you, is it? You deserve a really big cup of coffee. I hope you enjoy it. And we're going to go out with Forevermore. So just tell us a little bit about the song so that people can really appreciate it.
Well, when people come down, I'm going to show you how we wrote that song, and I'm going to show you the special tuning that we use for that song. It starts on acoustic, and we didn't know where it was going to go, but it turned into be like our epic song. It was the last song that David and I wrote for Forevermore, and we were both pretty burnt. When you get to the end of a writing session for a record, everybody's really tired and your mind is just toasty. And I said, DC, I've got one more idea I want to show you. And he says, no, we're done. And the next morning he came down and he said, all right, play me what you got, kid. And so I played it for him, and he immediately sang a beautiful melody that I just was like, DC, we got to make this happen, man. He goes, you're right. It sounds really good. And so that's the track, Forevermore, and it turned out to be the title track to the record, and I'm very happy about it. I look forward to seeing you guys, and Rosie, thank you so much for having me on.